super practical person and you've been waiting to just hear, okay, what do I do? You're going to like this video. I'm going to talk very practically about what your steps can be to bring clarity around gift-based ministry and direct you to some of the resources that we have available. The first thing that I want to encourage you to do, you're probably going to want to resist at first. Most churches and pastors that I engage with this type of conversation typically do, and that's okay, but just hear me out for a second. The first thing you have to do if you don't have an org chart is create an org chart. And you might say, I have one, review it. You might say, our church is too small, we don't need one. Yes, you do. Our church is too big, and we have staff that understands that. No, they don't. You have to create an org chart regardless of your size. You have to continually revisit it because what it does is it brings clarity to what ministries you have and who is in charge of those ministries and who do they report to. Now I'm saying that all emphatically because there are so many churches that say, I don't need an org chart. I don't need an org chart. And then I say, okay, real quick, Pastor, don't answer the question. In fact, I want to encourage you to do this at your next board meeting. Don't answer the question, just ask. Hey, board members, what I'd like you to do is write on a piece of paper the number of ministries we have in our church. Don't look at anybody else's, just write a number on a piece of paper. Then on the count of 3, have them all reveal what number is on their page. If you don't have an org chart, every number is going to be different. It'll be rather devastating, but it'll prove my point. Oftentimes people don't know where they can get involved in ministry because they don't even know what is a ministry. They don't know who's in charge of that ministry. They don't know who they answer to or who the conversation should be had with. So they come all the way back to you every time. And that can get exhausting. And it's not efficient. It's a system, but it's a poor one. And so I want to encourage you to spend some time writing down all the ministries of your church, putting them down and saying who's in charge of each one. And if there's a blank, put a question mark or put your name in there because that's probably the reality of it. And then go up and say, now who do they answer to? And I want to encourage you to not have any more than 5 direct reports. Now, if you are in charge of small groups in your church and you have more than 5 small groups, you already have too many direct reports. That's probably why your family is like, why don't we know you? So you have to start offloading these responsibilities. And the only way you can offload and understand what delegation looks like versus abdication is if you can get to a place where you actually understand who is reporting to you and how often are they reporting to you. So org chart, step 1. It might be painful. I encourage you to do it first. The next thing you have to do is say, what are the roles available to serve in my church? So if you have a specific ministry and you have a person's name in it, call them up and say, what serve roles do you currently have available that are filled or unfilled? And make a list of all of the serve opportunities in your church so that you know what they are. You might not know all of the serve opportunities except for the ones that people complain about. Understand what the serve roles are. This is something that you can delegate to somebody and then look at the list to review, or that you can do yourself. So you've got an org chart. Now you have a list of the roles. The next thing you have to do is you have to say what gift and passion goes with what role, right? So if you have a children's ministry role, well, it requires passion for children, right? So you already know that. What other what gifts are required for that role? Is it a leadership gift that's required? Is it a teaching gift? What gift is required for that role to be filled? What are the other requirements for that role? In other words, sometimes roles require membership because of your constitution or because of a preference of the board or the pastor, whatever that looks like. So what roles require people to be Christ followers? What roles don't? Are there roles that don't? Do you have a clear concept of what roles in your church are available for people to serve in immediately? Is that even something you're willing to go down the road of? Or is that something that you're opposed to? And I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that you have clarity around it. So have you clarified the requirements for every role? How can they sign up? How can they actually sign up to get involved? Now, this might seem like, hey, it's not rocket science or whatever, but oftentimes this is where it sort of gets muddy for people. Well, they talk to me. Oh, really? How sustainable is that? Or they talk to that guy or that gal. Like, that's not sustainable long term. What systems do you have in place for people to sign up? One of the things that I'd like you to consider is having serve opportunities being made clear during the membership process. The best way to change an organization, to change a culture, to restart a culture of gift-based ministry functioning fully is to start at the entry point. That when people come in, you say, listen, we believe membership is synonymous with serving. If you're a member here and you don't serve, we're confused. It doesn't make sense. How are you part of the body, but not part of the body? Like, if you're part of the body, then how are you stewarding your time, your talent, and your treasure? Like, so the Word of God is calling people to get involved in the body. And oftentimes we as the pastors are saying, watch me do ministry. It's not because we want to, well, although maybe some of us have issues internally with saying, I can do it better. That's something that you have to get over on your own. The reality is God has called us to function as a body. And the best way to function as a body is to identify what part is what, and then allow that body part to function according to its design. So, membership. The other opportunity is any given Sunday, is there clarity for that off-ramp or on-ramp for people to get involved? Is there a sign-up station? Is there an information center with a card that they can sign up? I'm not super big fan of paper products, and so I would encourage you to have it electronic. Is there an electronic way for people to sign up? Is it on your website? Is it in a place where people can engage every week and throughout the week to say, I think I'm going to check out this ministry? Now, it requires setup of some systems to ensure that you have proper pieces in place. In other words, you should not have somebody involved in your children's ministry without a background check. That's just a no-brainer. And so what needs to happen for people to work with children? If they're going to work with children, and in my environment, if they're going to work with children, they're going to be talking about theological things. They're going to be building the foundation for their spiritual life. And so therefore, I want someone that teaches children to, one, be an adult, so we can run an adequate background check on it. And two, that they understand and agree with our theology, which means I want them to be a member. So I want them to have gone through our process. We call it a stewardship process. And so they're a steward, and then they are background checked before they can work with our children. And there's no exceptions to that. So what are the standards that you have for the different areas of ministry? And this isn't about what it is that I do or what somebody else does that you can copy. This is about timeless principles to say, how do we provide clarity around how people get involved so that they can get involved and ultimately flourish in what God's called them to do? I've talked a lot about passion and giftedness, and we'll talk about some resources in just a second. Before we do, I want to talk about this personality concept. I was in youth ministry for about 10 years. And while we were in youth ministry, I had a young woman come up to me and say, hey, I definitely want to get involved in the youth ministry here. I'm super excited. I'm really passionate about teenagers. And we did a spiritual gift assessment with her. And the spiritual gift assessment revealed that she was really high in the area of hospitality and mercy. And so I just thought, this is perfect. We had a welcome area, and we could put her right in front of kids. So I just started to pour it on. I started to cast a vision of how she could fit into this body of believers and say, hey, listen, we have teenagers come in every week, and you could meet them at the door. We have a welcome team. You could assist, and come alongside them. And she's like, oh, wait. And I mean, I was like in full swing. I was killing it. And she's like, stop, Pastor, stop. I'm like, what? And she goes, yeah, about that. So I don't want to talk to the teenagers, though. I was like, excuse me? And she's like, yeah, I'm passionate about teenagers and I love them so much. And I have a real, mercy gift and hospitality. I see that. I just don't want to talk to them. And so it's funny, what happened in me first was this pastoral response of I'm going to speak against the lies of Satan in your life right now. I'm going to tell you about how, listen, sister, you can do it. Buck up. You're gifted for this. The old give it a shot talk. But as I'm listening to her, I'm so grateful that she was so self-aware and unapologetic. She said, literally, if you make me talk to teenagers, I quit. I was like, what? And she said, I don't want to do that. And then she looked at me and she said, who schedules the people that welcome the students? And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, the schedule that sets them up so they know when they're going to be greeting people. I was like, oh, I do that. She goes, I want to do that if it's okay. I was like, you want to do that? She's like, yeah, I'd love to do that. I would love to do that. And she goes, you know what else? Do we have a list of when their birthdays are? I was like, the kids' birthdays? She's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, we have a list of that. She goes, do you send them like, birthday cards or anything like that? I was like, no. She goes, can I do that? I was like, yeah. And she's like, oh, I'd love to do that. And so she would write cards to students. When she would find out that they had games going on, she would send them a letter. She would send them letters of encouragement. There are countless people that have been encouraged in their lives by this woman who always signed from our youth ministry. They don't even know she exists because they never met her, because she didn't want to meet them. It blew my mind. And for the first time, I realized there's a personality piece to this whole engagement when it talks about the body functioning fully. We did a disc profile. If you're familiar with that, it's probably the easiest to do, and you can get a free version of it online. And so we did a disc profile with her, and we found out that she was a high C personality. And a high C personality is someone that wants, literally, the explanation is they want to function in the background. They are most associated with beavers. They want to build and organize, and they want to be not seen or heard. And it just blew my mind. So often in ministry, people that are called into ministry have specific personality traits that they assume everyone should have. And when they don't, we want to talk it into them. And I want to tell you, it's a violation of the way God created people to be. And so I want to cause you to maybe have a little bit of a mental shift if this is new information to you, that maybe there are people that are wired to be behind the scenes, that don't have to be encouraged to the front. And so as we talk a little bit about this resourcing piece, I want to encourage you to consider what would it look like to do a disc profile, a free version. It takes a couple minutes of your membership class or whatever your class looks like for people to engage in the church. To do a personality piece is one part, but there's passion questionnaires. It's like 5 or 6 questions. If you just Google passion questionnaire, you could find your own, but we're going to provide resource links to all of these things if you'd like. There's also the opportunity for a free spiritual gift assessment. And you can add spiritual gifts to it. You can subtract from them however you want to do that. The reality is you want to attach activity within your church, a serve opportunity to every gift. So there are some gifts that are for the body. There are some gifts for individuals. You know this, you're a pastor. And so what does it look like to say these are the gifts for the body that actually are connected to serve opportunities? We want to identify those so that at the end of a membership class, they can take a personality profile, a spiritual gift assessment, a personality assessment, and a passion assessment, and connect all 3 of those things and say, listen, this is the way I'm wired, this is what I'm passionate about, and this is what I'm gifted in. Now that's going to require a person to then compile that information and communicate to them, hey, here are the opportunities we have available to serve, and here are the leaders to connect you, and here's your opportunity. So it requires a point person to oversee gift-based ministry within your church. In the beginning, maybe that has to be you. Long term, you should be looking for people as they exhibit the gifts necessary to be raised up to be this person. You're looking for an administrative, ruling gift person with a high D or high I personality. That type of personality and gifting is the type of person that you're looking for to maybe be this one person that bears the responsibility of identifying and releasing people into the areas of ministry in your church. They should be in charge of that system, in my experience. It's interesting that we say often that we want people to love coming to our church, but we don't always create an environment for them to really flourish in. We kind of obligate them to serve sometimes, or we encourage them to be someone God didn't call them to be. And we call it spirituality, but ultimately it's an offense. I'm so glad that young lady said, I'm not going to do it. And I realized there's a whole group of people that are wired entirely different. So maybe there's an opportunity to even create ministries that you didn't even know you needed. Now, I'm not a fan of a whole mess of ministries just for the fun of it, but I am a fan of starting different areas of a children's ministry, for example. Maybe a group of men or women that want to remain behind the scenes and just send out birthday cards to these kids. someone that can organize the scheduling of people. You understand what it is that I'm talking about. I'm talking about a wide variety of different roles and pieces that make up a robust, thriving ministry that's not siloed into one aspect of the church, but is part of a gift-based church ministry that's just saying, hey, listen, God's created us to be a body. Let's identify and function accordingly. You want the people of your church to be able to say, I can't believe I get to do this. Pastor, thank you for letting me do this. Can you imagine? We started these videos imagining what it would look like for a church where fully functioning people that have identified why and how God had created them, gifted them, wired them, put their passions inside them, and just releasing them for the redemptive work that God has in store for your community and surrounding communities. It's not that far off from possible. It's just a commitment. Say, I'm going to do the work necessary to equip the saints for the ministry, and I'm going to release them to do it for God's glory and for my joy. Everyone wins when the body is functioning the way it was created to be. You see, gift-based ministry is knowing the person, the passions, and gifts of your leaders in order to position the right person in the right seat. God bless you as you do that.